CBS News Bay Area Afternoon Edition with Ann Makovic.
Thanks for joining us this Wednesday. Some new headlines today in the anti-ICE protests. Federal charges now announced against 2 people from the Los Angeles demonstrations. That comes after the first night under curfew for part of the city. We're beginning our coverage on this developing story with Danya Backus in L.A.
Authorities in Los Angeles are calling on the Trump administration to stop what they call reckless immigration raids fueling protests downtown.
If you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area.
LA Mayor Karen Bass has imposed a nightly curfew for 1 square mile of the area amid isolated instances of violence and looting. On the first night alone, Los Angeles police carried out over 200 arrests for failure to disperse. Hundreds of others have been arrested for other offenses since demonstrations began.
Our community must be kept safe.
At least 2 men are facing federal charges, accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and sheriff deputies, which carry more severe penalties.
We can bring arson charges, explosive device charges. We can bring Hobbs Act robbery charges for the looters. We're coming after all these people.
The development comes just days after President Trump mobilized 4,000 National Guard troops to secure federal buildings in L.A. and 700 Marines, now stationed more than 20 miles away.
We don't need the National Guard, and they're not here to help us right now. They're here to facilitate what the federal agencies are doing on the immigration front.
California Governor Gavin Newsom shared those sentiments.
We do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces.
A federal judge is set to hold a hearing Thursday over the governor's request to block the Trump administration from using troops in L.A.
In Oakland, a few hundred people gathered for a vigil last evening at Fruitvale Plaza to show solidarity with Los Angeles and support for immigrants. Faith leaders prayed with the crowd and urged people to build community and stick together to fight back against the federal government. And about an hour after that peaceful protest, a group of looters broke into a shoe store on International Boulevard. Our Veronica Macias is there with the latest on the damage and reaction from a neighboring business owner.
An Oakland police officer who was here when we arrived telling us 1 person was arrested. That person detained after police responded 3 times overnight to looters at this store on International Boulevard. Let's show you the damage. Looters managed to cut the lock off of the sheer doors, peel off the plywood, and then shatter the glass to get in. This video from last night showing dozens of people coming in, storming the store and grabbing clothing and shoes. Looters broke in just an hour after that anti-ICE vigil was held in this area. The store, again, located on International Boulevard, and the store manager telling us this isn't the first time that their store is targeted by looters. That damage, still unknown how much. They're taking inventory. Right around the corner, a car was set on fire at 34th Avenue and International Boulevard. We're working to get more details about exactly what happened there. We've reached out to the Oakland Police Department for details and have yet to hear back.
Majority of this whole street, if you go from 30th to all the way up to 39th, all this stuff, 80% of these business owners are Hispanic. And you're messing up the communities. I mean, you're fighting for your community, but you're also messing up your community. And so now you have mom and pop businesses that have to spend extra money. They're spending their hard-earned money to even stay in business now.
Just like this shoe store here in Oakland, there was a shoe store in San Francisco's Mission District that was targeted. The glass shattered, but nothing taken. We also have stores in Union Square that have started to board up their storefronts in case of any vandalism or graffiti.
The sheriff in Santa Clara County is reaffirming the right for people to protest peacefully, but says any acts of violence, vandalism, or criminal behavior will not be tolerated. He also acknowledged the fear that recent crackdowns might be causing in the immigrant community. In a statement, Sheriff Robert Johnson wrote, "Let me be clear, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office is here to protect all residents, regardless of immigration status. We do not and we will not participate in civil immigration enforcement. We will, however, assist any law enforcement agency in addressing criminal activity." In San Francisco, Supervisor Bilal Mahmoud is denouncing the Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops and mobilization of Marines on the streets of L.A. He plans to introduce legislation at today's board meeting to affirm the public's First Amendment rights. Mahmoud's office says that his resolution also condemns the deployment of military force in civilian settings. That's going to be voted on next week. That comes as San Francisco police say they arrested 92 people during Monday night's protests. President Trump says his deployment of troops in Los Angeles in response to the protests could just be the start and that other cities should take notice. He says his decision is not adding to the tension.
It can only go right by having the military. It de-escalates. I mean, that was the only way.
The administration says the troops are providing protection for federal law enforcement and federal buildings. Under federal law, active duty military cannot be used for domestic law enforcement purposes without the president invoking the Insurrection Act. So far, he has not done that. Protests are popping up in more cities around the country, and more demonstrations are planned for this weekend, coinciding with a big parade in Washington, D.C. for the Army's 250th birthday. President Trump warning that anyone who wants to protest will be met with, quote, very big force. Former Republican Senator Chuck Hegel, who also served as defense secretary in the Obama administration, is concerned about politicizing the military.
That's what our senior officers are worried about and will continue to worry about as to how the president further intends to use the military against American citizens.
President Trump also announced that he is restoring the names of 7 Army bases originally named for Confederate military figures. Congress had ordered those name changes, which were completed under President Biden. We're going to have continuing coverage of all of this as it plays out on air, online at kpix.com, and streaming on CBS News Bay Area. We are following some breaking news right now. A New York jury has just found former movie mogul Harvey Weinstein guilty in one of the top charges in his sexual assault retrial. So the jury returned a partial verdict. Weinstein faces 3 charges. He was found guilty of criminal sexual assault in 1 count and was acquitted of sexual assault on a 2nd count. The jury has not reached a verdict on the charge of 3rd-degree rape involving actress Jessica Mann. Weinstein denies sexually assaulting or raping anyone. The judge has sent home the jury for the day. Deliberations on that 3rd count continue tomorrow. Back here in the Bay Area, the leader of a San Francisco nonprofit is starting a hunger strike today to protest millions of dollars in proposed cuts to civil legal services in the city. He says Mayor Daniel Lurie's proposed budget can lead to homelessness and hunger.
Please agree to the common sense goal that nobody should become homeless because they can't get legal assistance.
When someone is facing homelessness, free legal services can keep them housed. The cost of that service is nothing compared to the cost to our society when someone ends up on the street.
On the steps of City Hall, you see there labor activists and elected officials calling for the mayor to change his proposed budget. They say cutting $4.2 million for general legal services will put more than 300 people on the street. The CEO of Open Door Legal announced that he is going on a hunger strike until Lurie restores funding. BART getting back on track after a problem during the morning commute. There were delays along the San Francisco line and at the Millbrae station. Red Line service was out for a time because of some unscheduled maintenance. A woman died in a crash on Tully Road near Center Road in San Jose overnight. Police say the car she was riding in veered off the road and hit a tree. Another woman in the car was injured. The male driver was taken into custody for vehicular manslaughter and DUI. The roadway is now back open. City leaders in San Jose have voted in favor of a tough new policy on homelessness. The responsibility to shelter ordinance lets police cite or arrest anyone who turns down shelter 3 times in 18 months. Supporters say it connects people to housing, but critics warn it is punishing the unhoused instead of solving the crisis. That law kicks in on July 1st, with enforcement ramping up over the next few weeks. Taking a check on Wall Street now, the Dow is down about 45 points this morning. That comes after a report showed the inflation rate in the U.S. did not rise as much as expected last month. Even in the face of the Trump administration's tariffs, consumer prices increased 0.1% in May. while the nation's yearly inflation rate rose to 2.4%. President Trump says there is now a deal with China after 2 days of tense trade talks between top officials in London. Trump saying on social media, our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with the president and me. President Trump says the Earth gets the rare earth metals it needs, while Chinese students can attend American universities. Meanwhile, a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. has greenlit the president's sweeping global tariffs on China and our other trading partners to remain in effect. That is after a ruling by a federal trade court found the president exceeded his authority. Well, still ahead here at noon and streaming on CBS News Bay Area, let the games begin, or at least the preparations. We're taking you to Levi's Stadium, where they are celebrating 1 year until the FIFA World Cup storms the South Bay.
Well, if you want to get outside, maybe play some soccer, basketball, football, whatever sport you want, you might be a little bit chilly and a little bit breezy. I'll let you know when slightly warmer weather will return coming up in just a bit.
Taking a live look at Levi's Stadium this afternoon because in exactly 1 year, the FIFA World Cup officially kicks off. The stadium is going to host 6 soccer matches. And today, the city of Santa Clara and the Bay Area Host Committee are getting people pumped up for the World Cup. An official FIFA World Cup plaque was unveiled outside of Levi's Stadium at a kickoff ceremony. Several youth soccer teams were there to participate in a soccer clinic Q&A session held with Danville native and Gotham FC defender Tierna Davidson and former San Jose Earthquakes forward Chris Wondolowski.
Just full of excitement, just being able to showcase, have the Bay Area showcase what it has, especially for the FIFA World Cup, and not only the games, but also just to see the passion and the fans that come along with it.
The Bay Area is one of 16 regions across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico hosting games. First match at Levi's Stadium kicks off June 13th, 2026. All right, back to our first alert weather. Taking a live look outside at the city of San Francisco. Transamerica Tower there in the foreground. Let's check back in with meteorologist Zoe Mintz. How's it going?
Well, it's going a lot brighter than it was yesterday at this time. We can actually see some blue skies and sunshine here in San Francisco. You can actually see the top of Salesforce Tower. It's a lot nicer than it was yesterday at this time, at least for us. Temperatures, though, not necessarily warmer than what they were yesterday. We are still sitting in the mid-50s right now, mid-60s across our more inland communities, maybe upper 60s in Concord. But again, we're looking at stronger winds today. That's actually keeping those temperatures cooler from our coastal communities all the way inland. You can see the influence of the onshore flow gusting up to 30 miles an hour in San Francisco. And again, that onshore flow continues to reach farther inland and keep those temperatures even a couple of degrees below average today. So just something to keep our eyes on. Temperatures a couple of degrees below average, like I showed you earlier, but within about 5 degrees of seasonable and within a couple of degrees of what we've been feeling basically every day this week. The cloud coverage, though, this is what's different compared to yesterday. Yesterday, we saw a lot more of it, and today, that already is beginning to lift for places along the Golden Gate, directly in the funnel of that onshore flow. And because those winds are a bit breezier, we're actually looking at that marine layer a bit thinner, and it's going to continue to clear out over the next several hours. So high temperatures this afternoon, even though you won't be nearly as foggy as yesterday, still going to be in the upper 50s along our coastal communities. And then the influence of that onshore flow keeping those temperatures even farther inland in the upper 70s to maybe low 80s. That's still within a couple of degrees of normal for this time of year, though. Those winds are going to quiet down by tomorrow. So today, gusting up to 35 miles an hour. Tomorrow, likely going to stay under 30 miles an hour, which is really great news. We will be seeing a lot of sunshine farther south. So if you want to head down to Santa Cruz today, that will be your best chance to enjoy a little bit more of that sunshine. Waking up tomorrow morning with more fog, and by tomorrow afternoon, kind of a rinse and repeat of today. But today, we might notice those cooler temperatures. Tomorrow, warming up just a bit. And then by next week, this is what everyone's looking forward to. An even bigger heat up is on the way, but we have a couple of days until then. Back to you.
No matter what's going on around you. So this Pride Month, more businesses have been recognizing an important and growing market. Non-binary customers, from fashion to wellness, companies are stepping up to create spaces that truly welcome everybody, no matter where they fall on the gender spectrum. In Oakland, Marlo Miller's Banana Yoga Studio is one of those places, built for and by gender expansive people seeking a safe, welcoming space. The rise of businesses like this shows a growing market that's shaping the future of inclusivity.
If we focus on our members of a community who need the most help, everyone else will benefit.
So you can watch the full story coming up at 5 o'clock tonight on KPIX. Meantime, that is it for the afternoon edition. Remember, we are streaming 24/7 on the free CBS News app. Have a great Wednesday afternoon.